I told you that the woman who shattered a good man is not as powerful as she looks, and that after she hurts him, something begins to terrify her? Because once a good man wakes up, heals, and walks away with dignity, the power dynamic flips. And that shift is the one thing she cannot control. If this resonates with your experience, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you are on your healing journey, comment "done chasing" below. The first and most powerful fear a narcissistic woman experiences after hurting a good man is the loss of control. Control is the foundation of her emotional structure. It is how she feels safe, superior, and stable. In relationships, this control does not always look obvious. It can appear as subtle guilt-tripping, shifting blame, withholding affection, unpredictable warmth, or creating emotional confusion so the partner constantly seeks her approval. A good man, especially one who is empathetic and patient, becomes easy to manage because he wants harmony. He explains himself, over-apologizes, and tries harder. That effort feeds her sense of dominance. When she hurts him, she assumes he will stay in that pattern. She believes his love guarantees her authority. What truly shakes her is when that pattern breaks. The moment he stops defending himself against false accusations, stops reacting to provocations, or stops chasing after emotional withdrawal, she feels the ground move beneath her. His emotional independence represents a direct threat. Without his predictable responses, she cannot regulate her own sense of power. Control for her is not just about winning arguments. It is about knowing she can influence his mood, his decisions, and his self-perception. If she can make him doubt himself, she feels secure. If she can make him seek her validation, she feels important. But once he begins trusting his own judgment and setting boundaries, her strategies fail. She may escalate manipulation, create drama, or attempt to pull him back with affection because unpredictability frightens her more than conflict. What intensifies this fear is that she often builds her identity around being the emotionally dominant partner. If he detaches and stands firm, it forces her to confront a painful reality. Her power depended entirely on his cooperation. The loss of control exposes her dependency on his emotional investment. That exposure feels like vulnerability, and vulnerability is something she has spent her life avoiding. The second fear that begins to surface after she hurts a good man is the fear of being exposed and accurately seen. A narcissistic woman carefully curates an image. She may present herself as confident, charming, emotionally intelligent, even compassionate. To the outside world, she often appears strong and desirable. But beneath that image is a fragile sense of self that depends heavily on how others perceive her. The good man, especially one who loved her deeply, has had close access to her inconsistencies, her mood swings, her double standards, and her emotional manipulation. As long as he remains confused or self-blaming, her image remains protected. If he believes he was the problem, she stays safe. But once he begins to recognize the patterns, the gaslighting, the shifting narratives, the silent treatments designed to punish, he becomes a threat. Not because he will necessarily retaliate, but because he now sees her clearly. And being seen clearly feels like exposure. Exposure does not only mean public humiliation. It means losing the ability to control the narrative. Narcissistic personalities rely heavily on narrative management. They subtly shape stories to ensure they remain the victim or the hero. When a good man connects the dots, he no longer accepts distorted versions of events. He may stop arguing entirely, not because he agrees, but because he understands. That calm understanding is terrifying to her because it removes her leverage. She fears that he might speak about what happened, not dramatically, but honestly. She fears that others may begin to compare experiences and notice similar patterns. Even if he says nothing, his emotional withdrawal sends a signal that her charm did not hold. And if someone who once adored her can walk away with clarity, it threatens the illusion she has worked so hard to maintain. At the core of this fear is shame. Narcissistic defenses are built to protect against deep, buried shame. Accurate perception dismantles those defenses. When a good man sees her not as extraordinary, but as insecure and manipulative, the mirror he holds up becomes unbearable. The third fear that quietly grows after she hurts a good man is the fear of his healing and no longer wanting her. At the beginning of the relationship, she likely sensed his steadiness, his loyalty, his emotional depth. Those qualities are attractive not only because they feel safe, but because they provide reliable admiration and support. A good man invests. He believes in working through problems. He gives second chances. That consistency becomes something she unconsciously counts on. When she wounds him through betrayal, criticism, emotional neglect, or manipulation, she often assumes he will remain emotionally tethered. Even if he pulls away temporarily, she expects that his love will bring him back. In her mind, his attachment is permanent. What truly destabilizes her is the possibility that he might grow beyond her reach. Healing changes everything. A healing man starts setting boundaries. He questions dynamics that once felt normal. He no longer internalizes blame for her volatility. As he rebuilds his self-worth, he stops seeking reassurance from the very person who destabilized him. That emotional shift creates distance she cannot easily close. Her fear is not simply that he will leave. It is that he will leave and thrive. If he becomes stronger, more confident, more self-aware, it challenges the silent assumption that she was the best he could do. Narcissistic dynamics rely on subtle hierarchies. She positions herself as the prize, the superior partner, the one with options. If he heals and no longer desires her validation, that hierarchy collapses. What intensifies this fear is the permanence of genuine detachment. Anger still signals attachment. Arguments still signal investment. But calm indifference signals closure. When he stops reacting emotionally to her presence, when he does not respond to subtle attempts at rekindling attention, she feels the loss of influence in a profound way. A healed good man is unpredictable in the one way she cannot tolerate. He no longer needs her, and when need disappears, so does her leverage. That absence of leverage forces her to confront the unsettling truth that her power was never intrinsic. It was sustained by his unhealed attachment. The fourth fear centers on losing narcissistic supply. The steady stream of admiration, validation, attention, and emotional energy that keeps her psychological structure intact. Narcissistic supply is not simply about compliments. It is about being mirrored as important, desirable, superior, or indispensable. A good man, especially one who loves deeply, naturally provides this. He listens attentively. He praises sincerely. He prioritizes her needs. He invests time and emotional labor. His consistency becomes a reliable source of affirmation. After she hurts him, she often assumes that even if the relationship fractures, the supply will remain accessible. She expects him to check in, to miss her, to respond to her posts, to feel jealous, to defend her reputation. Any reaction, even negative, confirms that she still occupies space in his emotional world. Attention, in any form, reassures her that she matters. What unsettles her is silence. When he withdraws not in anger but in clarity, the flow of supply begins to dry up. Without his affirmations and emotional responsiveness, she may feel restless, irritable, or anxious. The absence of his steady attention can create an internal void she struggles to regulate. This is why she might attempt subtle re-engagement, a casual message, a nostalgic memory, a carefully crafted image online designed to provoke curiosity. These are attempts to reopen the supply line. The deeper issue is that narcissistic supply stabilizes self-worth that is otherwise fragile. Without external validation, she may confront feelings of inadequacy or emptiness that she has long avoided. A good man's devotion once buffered those feelings. When he removes that devotion, the buffer disappears. Losing supply also threatens her sense of dominance. If she cannot elicit admiration or emotional reaction from him, she is forced to recognize that her influence has limits. That recognition feels destabilizing because it challenges the belief that she can always draw energy from those who once loved her. The fifth fear that emerges after she hurts a good man is public accountability and damage to her image. Image management is central to narcissistic functioning. She carefully constructs how she is perceived: attractive, strong, misunderstood, desirable, perhaps even victimized. Social circles, family, colleagues, and online platforms often see a curated version of her. That version protects her from scrutiny and reinforces her sense of superiority. When she harms a good man, she relies on one critical assumption: that he will stay quiet or carry the blame. Many good men do exactly that at first. They internalize the conflict, question themselves, and avoid speaking negatively about someone they once loved. That silence protects her narrative. It allows her to maintain the role she prefers: the one who was wronged, the one who simply couldn't make it work, the one who tried. What she fears is not loud confrontation. It is calm, credible truth. If he reaches a point of clarity and begins to speak honestly, not vindictively but factually, it threatens the carefully balanced perception she depends on. Consistent patterns become harder to dismiss if multiple people notice them. If friends start comparing stories or recognizing manipulation, her social positioning weakens. Accountability also means losing control over how the story is told. Narcissistic individuals often preemptively shape narratives, subtly discrediting former partners to preserve their own image. But a composed, self-assured good man who does not engage in drama, yet does not accept false accusations, is difficult to undermine. His steadiness contrasts with any exaggerated portrayal of him as unstable or cruel. The fear intensifies because public perception feeds self-worth. Praise, admiration, and sympathy act as external stabilizers. If those begin to shift even slightly, it can trigger deep insecurity. Damage to image feels like a crack in armor. At its core, this fear is about exposure to consequence, not necessarily legal consequence, but social and relational consequence. If people begin to see through the facade, she loses both admiration and protection. And for someone who relies heavily on external validation, that possibility feels profoundly threatening. The sixth fear that takes hold after she hurts a good man is the fear of being replaced by a healthier partner. In narcissistic dynamics, comparison is constant. She may subtly compete with other women, measure her desirability through attention, and view relationships through a lens of status. While she may discard or devalue a good man, she often assumes he will struggle without her. That belief protects her ego. It allows her to maintain the internal narrative that she was the superior partner, the one with more options, the one who could easily move on. What destabilizes her is the possibility that he might not only move on, but upgrade emotionally. If he finds a partner who is stable, kind, emotionally available, and secure, it challenges the hierarchy she unconsciously created. A healthier woman will not need to manipulate to feel powerful. She will not rely on drama to maintain attention. If he thrives in that environment, it sends a message she does not want to receive. The problem was never his inadequacy. This fear is intensified by visibility. Seeing him genuinely happy, calm, and respected in a new relationship forces comparison. Narcissistic insecurity often hides beneath confidence. If another woman treats him well and he responds with gratitude and strength, it highlights what she could not sustain. That contrast can trigger envy and resentment because it exposes that her control was never the same as genuine connection. There is also the fear of being forgotten in the shadow of someone better suited for him. If the new partner embodies qualities he once wished for, empathy, consistency, emotional safety, then her influence becomes part of his past rather than his present. That transition removes her from the center of his emotional world. At the core, this fear is about status and validation. Being replaced by someone healthier is not just about losing him. It is about losing the illusion of superiority and confronting the possibility that love built on authenticity may always outlast love built on control. The seventh fear that lingers